I know this particular question is going to come across the table is how are you going to essentially identify foundational Black Americans, descendant of American slaves, freedmen? Is there going to be some sort of database? Is there going to be some sort of DNA check where there's going to be a lineage of sorts? How are we going to be able to identify those people who are direct descendants of American slaves here in the United States of America?
Well, the criteria I like to use is the criteria that is set out in the book From Here to Equality, written by Dr. Darity and his wife, Kirsten Mullen. And it pretty much states that a person has to be a descendant of someone who was enslaved by the American government and will also have had to classify themselves as Negro, colored, Black, African American for at least a decade or more. So that right there is the criteria. How we go about classifying those people is relatively very simple. Well, for one, the United States of America, a lot of people like to fret over how you're going to prove that your ancestors were enslaved by this country. But that's very easy to do. It will not be done by DNA, because if it was to be done by DNA, that will make this a race issue. But reparations from the American government is not for all quote unquote Black people. It's just for freedmen, the people of the lineage to whom the harm was done. So this is a lineage based issue. It's not if are you Black, it is are you a descendant of the people who were enslaved by this government and then went through subsequent anti-Black racial terrorism in the forms of Jim Crow, lynch mobs, and redlining. So DNA is out the question. It's about lineage. And here is one way I like to approach it. Rather than trying to make everyone prove that they are a descendant of someone who was enslaved by the American government, which, by the way, is very easy to do, and with just a little bit of assistance, those who have yet to do it can easily do it. The American government knows who is in this country illegally. Absolutely. And who is an immigrant in this country legally. So 90% of Black Americans are freedmen. All we have to do, and this is very easy to do, much easier than people having to search through census records, slave schedules, ship manifest, which, by the way, I still strongly encourage all freedmen to do that so we can learn about our ancestors that came before us. However, all the American government has to do is look at all the Black people in this country, eliminate the 10% that are immigrants, and you already know the remaining are here as freemen, because the overwhelming majority of Black people in this country are freemen. Outside of that, however, those resources I mentioned already, census records, slave schedules, sometimes people have personal narratives that are well recorded. Those things can be used as well.
So I guess in that sense, would people have to solidify and verify themselves, or would there be some sort of government system that you can put in place to have that verified?
The good news is there already is a government system, or at least I should say there was. The Freedmen's Bureau existed. And for those who are not familiar with the Freedmen's Bureau was a department of the federal government that was supposed to make sure that freedmen and their descendants, of whom we are, whom I am definitely one of, received food, shelter, land, healthcare, and housing. Unfortunately, it was sabotaged by Congress, but it was able to, first of all, help unite families that had been brutally shattered by chattel slavery. A lot of people, Black Americans, were able to have their weddings and marriages officiated via the Freedmen's Bureau. And the Freedmen's Bureau also kept track of a lot of the people who were enslaved that were emancipated. So we have that. But under my plan, the Freedmen's Bureau will be returned to finish the job it was doing, to help solidify the protected class status of freemen, because during the era of the Freedmen's Bureau, we were a protected class. The military was in all of the former Confederate states to make sure that our rights were upheld. We may not need that form of protection in our modern era, but the Freedmen's Bureau will still be there to advocate for us. And one way they will be there to advocate for us in the context of reparations is to help people I find and verify their lineage. But obviously, a lot of us, such as I, have records. My great grandmother helped raise me. She died when I was 31 years old at an age 101 in 2015. She was raised by her grandparents, and my great grandfather, well, my great 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 grandfather, Willie Simmons, was formerly enslaved. I have his records and I have proof that he was formerly enslaved. So a lot of us can do that. So we can verify ourselves, or we can get assistance from the Freedmen's Bureau if we believe indeed we are freedmen.
Okay. So I know in your overall plan, reparations is head of the ticket, but you have an actual plan. Can you share? Is it possible for you to share some of the things that's in your actual plan that you're willing to do to fix Black America?
Sure. So the first thing on which I'm running, because you said my slogan, so thank you for that, is repair Black America to fix America. So first and foremost, my plan is reparations. And I feel this is very important to explain. So just bear with me 1 second. I want to address the myths that there are out there about reparations. And then I want to contrast that with the facts. One, reparations is not a payment from white Americans to Black Americans for the harms of chattel slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, lynch mobs, and we know the atrocities go on and on and on, because there are people out there on both sides, on the so-called far left and definitely the far right, who will have white people who may be open to supporting reparations, thinking that it's a tax on them for the wrongs that their ancestors may or may not have been involved with doing. No, the debt for reparations comes from the institution that had the responsibility to protect us and to make sure that our constitutional rights were upheld. And that is the American government. Okay?